Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Nicole Loretto, and on behalf of the entire team of the Royal, welcome. If some of you are regulars, you know that every month we actually hold conversations at the Royal on the topic of mental health, normally from a clinical and a research perspective. Obviously tonight, this is a special conversation, and it's something that's touched all of us. Obviously the tragedy, last week's tragedy, and we decided, because there was lots of questions asked in terms of, well, how do people react? What's the normal way to react? How do we cope? What do we tell our friends and family? And so with our clinicians, we have decided to do a special session tonight. This is going to be an information session, and I know several of you have, maybe some of you have been on the bus, some of you have known someone that's been affected, either a family member or a friend, or simply like some of us that are just affected because it has struck our community. And tonight we're going to talk about those issues. And I'm going to propose a little different format because obviously you see all these cameras around, and the session is going to be taped officially by Rogers, which will air on Saturday afternoon and Sunday. And the main purpose is to provide the right information because there's a lot of misperceptions out there, and that's why we thought, let's have our clinicians speak and share their insights. Now, what that means is we'll proceed with a general presentation. They'll give you some information. We'll accept a couple of general questions, and then we're going to allow lots of time for people to come and speak to the clinicians. There's two in front, which I'm going to introduce shortly, but there's also some key people all in the back. So at any time, if you feel like you need to take a moment or to step away, we have clinicians, clinical staff here to provide support. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that the resources are here in the room. So for that, we'll just kind of do a very general presentation, just general questions, and anything in specific that you would like to talk to, we'll turn off the mics. You'll be able to have a chance to talk to any clinician. Is that agreeable to everybody? Now, normally I would read their bios, and they're quite extensive, but all I'm going to say, because I think it's important to start the conversation, you have two of the top clinicians that we have here, trauma experts who actually work in the Occupational Stress Injury Clinic. This is a clinic that we have that serves all the Canadian Armed Forces, RCMP, responders who deal specifically with trauma. So I'd like to, on my left, this is Dr. Michelle Boivin and Dr. Louis Oliver, who will actually guide us tonight on coping with tragedy. So please welcome both our clinicians.
We'd like to suggest that before we start talking, we take a moment of silence just to observe for any of you that have been affected by the trauma, what has occurred, and start talking to them. We want to start by thanking you all for coming tonight. In the days since the collision occurred, our community's residents and civic organizations and media outlets have done an amazing job of responding to people's immediate needs for support, providing us with excellent information, and really starting the process of collective and individual grieving. For all of us in our city, this has been something that's very upsetting. And for some of you, we know that this is particularly raw. So when an event like this happens, we find that it brings up questions about what is trauma, how do people heal and recover, and what can we do to help our friends and loved ones if they've been affected. So in the next hour or so, we're going to try to provide you with some information about what we know about trauma. What distinguishes an expectable reaction from a reaction that's more concerning. We're going to talk about how people recover, and we're going to provide some suggestions for things that you can do if you know someone that's been affected, if you've been affected, or if you're a first responder to the situation. And as Nicole said, we'll leave some time at the end to take your questions, both as a group and individually. So trauma is a word that's used very often, and oftentimes to describe things that are upsetting but not actually traumatic. But what really makes something traumatic is how much it threatens us or how much it violates us. And this can be something that we experience directly or not necessarily. It can be something that we observe happen to somebody else. It can be learning about something violent or accidental that's happened to someone that we're close to, someone we care about. Or it can be the experience of repeated exposure to upsetting details of something that's happened. And this is the case, for example, for first responders who have to attend to the immediate aftermath of an event or conducting an investigation, or for family members who may be hearing repeated accounts of something that has happened to a loved one. And the other thing that makes these events traumatic is that it really shakes our belief system, our expectations for safety and security. So if all of a sudden the unimaginable happens, it can leave us with a lot of questions. And people can react to that in a variety of ways. So sometimes things are so upsetting that we find it hard to shake the thoughts and memories of what's happened. So we can have thoughts and images kind of intrude on our thought process. It can be difficult to concentrate or remember things that people tell us because we're not paying our full attention to what's going on in the moment. We're thinking a lot about what's happened. We can have nightmares that interrupt our sleep, wake us up, that are upsetting. And when we talk about the emotional reactions, one of the primary ways that we respond to a trauma is with anxiety and fear. We start to become concerned about safety, but a trauma can also bring with it a whole range of emotional reactions. So people will often report feeling angry or irritable. This can be directed at ourselves at times. It can be directed at people that we care most about. And it can seem to occur in situations that we wouldn't expect. And it's upsetting to people if it's out of character or if they can't explain why that's happening. It's also common for people to second guess their reactions or to feel a sense of guilt about things that they feel that they've done or not done. People will often say, what if I did this, or I should have done that, as a way to try to think about ways for this not to happen again. So people can often carry feelings of guilt or regret or shame after something like this happens. And because trauma often involves loss, either loss of life or material loss, people also can experience quite a lot of grief. And so the grief reaction is something that's very relevant after an event like this. And it's not uncommon for people to report quite a bit of sadness, feeling like they easily come to tears, feeling despair or feeling hopeless. And because all of those emotions can be so intense and so overwhelming, one of the things we often hear is that people will say that all they can really feel is numb. And that's understandable and normal as well, because it's a way for us to temporarily kind of shut down these really upsetting feelings and reactions that we have. Because a trauma activates our body's kind of natural defense systems, our fight or flight response, we also can have a lot of physical symptoms after an event like this. So people might tell us that they have a lot of trouble sleeping. They're waking up throughout the night, waking up too early, having trouble getting to sleep, thinking too much at bedtime, feeling tired during the day, having difficulty kind of navigating normal day-to-day activities because of fatigue. Might symptoms like nausea, upset stomach, eating more or less than usual. You might feel tense or achy, get headaches, and these are all kind of signs that our body is working overtime. And the behaviors that we see people engaging in are really kind of efforts to cope with what's happened. So because these events are so upsetting, it's natural to kind of want to avoid things that might remind us of what happened, or avoid situations where we might feel unsafe, or even avoid our own internal experiences. So thoughts or emotions that will be very, very upsetting. So there can be a tendency to not go into certain situations that we used to have more difficulty engaging in, or to push away thoughts and emotions. We often see people withdrawing from people that they care about, and this can be really difficult as a loved one if someone needs time alone in space to think about and process what has happened. We sometimes see people using a lot of alcohol or other substances, and again, this kind of makes sense because those things provide a temporary relief or escape from these really upsetting reactions that we have. And it's only in the long term that they cause difficulties. So it's tempting for people to try to deal with it in some of those ways. And people can be extra careful or overprotective of loved ones, children, people who depend on us. We can take extra measures to keep ourselves safe and secure, or be really kind of on guard for signs of something else that could happen. Again, this makes sense because really what we're motivated to do is keep ourselves feeling safe and comfortable. So the messages that we wanted to send are, first of all, that all of these are very normal, natural reactions after something really overwhelming has happened. They're all just ways that we process an overwhelming event that has happened, ways that we try to keep ourselves safe. And they're connected to one another. So if someone is experiencing a lot of intrusive thoughts and a lot of overwhelming emotions, it's really natural to see why they would want to start to try to avoid things that remind them of what happened. And the other thing that we really notice is that there's a whole range of normal reactions that people can have. So there's no one right way or one expectable way that people respond to this. It really ranges depending on the individual. And our rule of thumb is that in the first couple of days or weeks, really anything goes. So any reaction that people might be having is probably quite normal. We'll talk later about some exceptions to that rule, some causes for concern. That's one of the things that we wanted to emphasize. So trauma, unfortunately, is not an uncommon experience. So our best estimates suggest that 60% of men and half of women will experience at least one traumatic event in the course of our lives. But the experience of trauma in and of itself doesn't mean that people will go on to have difficulty or have trouble adjusting. In fact, most people who experience a traumatic event will eventually bounce back and recover. So for example, when we look at the rates of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which is one of the most common reactions that we see down the line for people who experience difficulty after an event like this, the rates are much, much lower than the rates for trauma itself. So about 8% of women and roughly 8% of men and roughly 20% of women who experience a trauma will go on to develop something like PTSD. So that's really a reflection of our ability as humans to be resilient and to heal from events like this eventually. So one of the questions that we often get is, what is natural recovery and how do people recover from these kinds of events? Because in the short term, as we just saw, there's not really a lot that distinguishes people who have normal reactions from people who eventually will get stuck. The reactions and the signs and symptoms look very similar. But we do know that among people who will eventually recover, those reactions will start to dissipate within the first couple of weeks or months after trauma occurs. So certainly within the first 3 months to a year, we will see most of that natural recovery happening within that time. And what seems to allow people to be resilient and to bounce back is eventually, not in the first couple of days, but eventually re-engaging in their normal day-to-day routines and activities and social contacts. And we think that helps people to recover for a couple of reasons. So the first is that we start to re-engage. That gives us the opportunity to have what we call corrective experiences. So these are things that allow us to kind of re-establish a sense of safety and security. If I have a car accident and I'm initially afraid of driving, I might start to drive with a great deal of fear. And it might take me a while of doing that to really come to feel that although something bad like this could happen, it's unlikely to happen on any given occasion. And so slowly over time, I can begin to feel relatively safe again. So that's one important factor. And the second thing about re-engaging is that it really gets us back into contact with our natural support systems. And that's hugely important because that sets the stage for us to have the support and the comfort and the connection that we need to digest what's happened, to kind of process all of the emotions that come along with something like this, and to begin to heal. So there are some things that we do, again with the best of intentions, to try to comfort ourselves and make ourselves feel better, that can get in the way of that natural recovery process. But again, these are things that are very understandable that people engage in. So, like we talked about earlier, if we start to avoid things that remind us of what happened and that make us feel unsafe in the first few days, that's not so much an issue. As we said, anything kind of goes. But if that avoidance kind of persists over time, and we keep avoiding things, and it grows, then the avoidance, although it makes us feel a bit of a sense of relief in the short term, can prevent us from having some of those corrective experiences in the long run. And the same with being overprotective. Again, that's a very normal and natural instinct in the first little while. But if we're always really, really careful and overprotective, and nothing bad happens, then we can tell ourselves that it's because we've taken all of these extra precautions, we need to keep doing that to keep ourselves safe. Because these thoughts and memories of an event like this are pretty upsetting. Again, it's normal to want to push them away. That's just the human experience. We don't like to feel that much discomfort or pain, so we do push things away when they're upsetting to us. But again, if we keep doing that, it almost seems to have the opposite effect of what we intend, because those thoughts and emotions are really a normal part of reacting to a trauma. And if we push them away and try and ignore them, they have a way of kind of coming back and reminding us that we've got unfinished business. So that's when people eventually will get re-experiencing symptoms like intrusive thoughts and nightmares and flashbacks. Those are all little reminders that our body and mind is sending us to say that there's something that we haven't digested yet. Sometimes for people it can be the opposite. So instead of trying to push thoughts away and trying to suppress feelings, people can be tempted to kind of go over and over something that has happened. We call that ruminating. And that's kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum. And it's it's not so helpful to us in the long term either, because it can really keep us stuck in some unhelpful thoughts and beliefs that we might have. So a good example is if we feel guilty or responsible for something that's happened, and we keep thinking and thinking about that, it's really hard to get unstuck from that thought and kind of come to a different meaning of what's happened. Because we feel unsafe and insecure after an event like this, we can be on the lookout for other bad things that could happen. If we're really, really vigilant, and that kind of extends over time as well, then we can start to see potential danger in things that used to feel okay to us. And that can really kind of compound our sense of feeling unsafe and being insecure. We've already talked about alcohol and medication use. It's for a really brief period to give us a temporary sense of relief. But then again, it's one of those things that prevents us from kind of digesting and processing what has happened, because it kind of puts something on the shelf and it's still there. It's still there later for us to process. And again, because we feel very sad and distraught after something like this happens, we do normally and naturally kind of stop doing things we used to enjoy, and that's absolutely understandable in the first little while. If we keep giving up those pleasurable activities because it's hard to feel a sense of kind of desire or interest, or if we feel guilty about enjoying things again, then again we can get stuck in that sadness because we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to feel any sense of pleasure and enjoyment again. So these are some of the things that can keep us stuck, and that can lead to some of the more lasting reactions that we'll come back to and talk a little bit later as well.
Yes, sir. So, thank you very much for coming here tonight. One of the things that we want to talk about is traumatic loss. Everyone here, I'm assuming, has been touched in a general sense by this event. That there are people for whom this really represents what we call traumatic loss. And that's where there's been a death that has been, for them, sudden, unexpected, or violent, in this case in particular. And that can be something that has after effects that last for quite some time, potentially. This is a kind of loss that tends to be different from usual bereavement or grief, because it might get deeper. It kind of goes against the basic assumptions that we have about our world. We usually go to work and we don't expect something like this to happen. And there's potential for this to become more complicated than when someone passes away, say, of old age or something like that. So there are very common reactions to such a loss. One of the main ones is shock. Because this comes out of the blue, these kinds of losses, because they are sometimes violent or unexpected, it doesn't follow the usual pattern that we expect it to follow. And so people often after an event like this will have a sense of disbelief. Like you can't understand what happened, it doesn't sink in for quite some time, and people go around saying, I can't believe this happened here, I can't believe this happened to me. And it's like feeling like a sense of unreality, essentially. One of the after effects of that is that you can have a lot of prolonged, repetitive thoughts about the event, because what your brain is trying to do essentially is come to terms with the reality of what happened. This is so unreal. There can be a lot of fear and anxiety resulting from an experience like this. again, normally we walk around more or less assuming that the world we live in is relatively safe. You know that painful, difficult things happen in other places, but you don't even expect them to happen to you or witness them. And so that sense of safety can be affected. People can feel a lot of anxiety going outside, maybe driving on the road, that kind of stuff. There can be a lot of worrying in the aftermath of an event like this, and your sense of safety in the world is affected. People often feel a lot of anger. Something like this makes you feel potentially out of control, very helpless, and sometimes there's a seeking for who's to blame for this, what does this mean? It can be anger at certain people or anger at God, if that's your belief system. And sometimes there's a sense of guilt about what you did or you could have done. Sometimes that guilt is not necessarily rational or realistic, but it's hard to let go of. Right? So what people call survivor guilt, like a sense perhaps that should have been me, or why am I still alive and someone else isn't, that sort of thing. The guilt can also affect people at the level of letting themselves go on in life. There's a sense of, how can I be happy or do something meaningful to me when other people suffer so much?
I'm sorry, I don't think your mic is on.
No? I'm not sure that is. Maybe I'll just take this one.
It's coming through the speaker, it's just not pretty well.
So, something like this? I don't know. That's fine. Okay. So, what can you do? One of the things that we really suggest to people when they're grieving, when they've gone through a significant loss, is that there is no one right way to grieve. Everybody's unique and everybody grieves in a unique way. So, especially in the first little while, people can have very, very different reactions, and it's important, unless the person is doing something that clearly is harming them, just to let them have their way and deal with their pain as they will. One of the reasons this is important is because, for example, in families, people can have very, very different ways of grieving, and sometimes that can cause friction and unnecessary pain. So, for example, one person might be dealing with a loss by needing to just kind of not think about it, distract themselves a lot, and keep very busy. And so their partner is looking at them going, don't you care? Does this not matter to you? Other people have a real need to talk about the event a lot, or just have a lot of emotions, express a lot of emotions. There's a wide variety of ways that people grieve. Some of them can be problematic in the long term, but really there's not one right way. One of the things that we do suggest people do is to connect with their support systems. So you have all kinds of supports in your life. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help or ask for a listening ear if you feel like you need it. It's one of the things that's positive about the news. There's been a significant turnout in it. It speaks to the caring and the concern in our community about this event. Sometimes people benefit from collective grieving, such as vigils, candlelit vigils, or spiritual services, or just remembrance of the people who died or people who've been affected, just the acknowledging of who these people were, and the fact that they've been missed, and that this has affected us all. And also different ways of grieving this individually. So some people find that rituals are very useful for them, something to commemorate or remember the person who died, or to mark the death in some way. One thing that I think is very important is let yourself have your feelings. So people have all kinds of reactions to traumatic events and losses like this, everything ranging from profound sadness and sorrow to anger and rage to guilt. And sometimes we're brought up to feel like certain feelings are not okay and certain feelings are. Every feeling is okay, essentially. That's different from what you do with those feelings, but letting yourself feel the grief is part of that grieving process and part of getting to a point where eventually you can feel some kind of sense of resolution. Maintaining self-care is very important, so eating well, trying to get enough sleep, getting exercise, and to some extent, keeping up your usual routine. And in this case, balance is really key. So as Dr. Loan was saying, anything in the extreme is not going to be helpful. So people who try to essentially say, well, this didn't happen, and now I'm just going to keep doing business as usual. That's a noble sentiment in a way, because they want to get back on the horse, so to speak. But it's important, if you feel the need to actually acknowledge what happened, something really painful, really difficult happened, and let's pause and actually acknowledge it. Sometimes in our culture, it's common for people to just say, well, get over it. And for some people that is possible, for others it's not so easy, and it's not appropriate either. So to give yourself enough time and space to grieve and do what you need to do to take care of yourself. At the other extreme, one thing that's important is to keep some routines going, keep some sense of normalcy in life. Certain things that just make you feel like things are normal, because part of you is saying something horribly wrong has happened, and it can be very overpowering. So little things that, let's say your family does, they just give you a sense of connection to other people, and a sense of regular meaning. So eventually be engaging in activities. Something that we weren't sure if we wanted to talk about tonight, because it's given the recency of what's happened, so it might be a bit premature, but it's the idea of ultimately creating a meaningful legacy for any kind of loss. So when a tragic event like this happens, it can leave us doubting our sense of purpose, doubting our sense of meaning in life, and sometimes at some point it can be useful to find your own personal meaning for what an event, what it represents to you. So for some people that can be creating some kind of personal legacy or a positive legacy. I'm not saying look on the bright side, it's not that at all. We're talking more about finding something about this, given that it happened and you can't undo it, that honors the people that were affected. Sometimes what we see most often is that after a traumatic event, people will reevaluate some of their values and say, what is most important to me? I know for myself, when I hear about something like this being close to home, it always reminds me life is fragile, life is precious, and it makes me appreciate the relationships that I do have and the beauty in life. Because it's sometimes we go around thinking, we're going to live forever and nothing's going to affect us, and that's not always true. Okay. So, just talking very briefly about strategies for first responders. One of the practices that was done for quite some time is what's called psychological debriefing and critical incident stress management. Generally speaking, that's been found not to be that useful in these cases. That's where after some kind of traumatic event, there's a lot of debriefing, a lot of talking about what went on. And really what the research shows is that psychological first aid is much more useful to people in the immediate aftermath of an event like this. So focusing on immediate needs such as housing, comfort, safety, and helping people just access the resources that are already in their community. So psychological first aid in the short term involves safety planning, stabilization, helping the individual feel validated, connected, safe, providing education and information such as we're doing tonight, and planting seeds, helping people find resources rather than starting a lot of intense intervention. I'm going to go over some kind of collective do's and don'ts and some individual personal ones. So one of the things that's very helpful to people in situations like this is to offer the possibility of group support. and for people who are open to it. So not imposing, but making that available to people. If people need to talk about stuff, that be accessible to them. And if that's not something that they're comfortable with, to also allow them to have opportunities for individual support. Sometimes for people who are feeling the need to, reviewing some aspects of the event, what actually happened, it helps you process everything. For some people that's not useful, so it's always important to ask. One of the things that we're doing here is providing information about the effects of trauma and allowing people to take what they need from that without necessarily pushing them into talking about stuff. And if people are interested to discuss what they might expect from some kind of therapy, if that's what they want to do at some point. So, in terms of what you can do to help people in your own life, one of the most important things is to be a safe listening ear. That's actually a really rare thing in our culture. It's relatively rare that we have someone who will actually just listen and hear us without trying to fix it, without providing advice, without any judgment. And at times like this, that can be invaluable. So if you can do that for someone else, or if that's what you're needing, that's something that's important to highlight. People sometimes after an event like this don't know what to do, and sometimes that's exactly what you need. You just be there and listen and be a receptive audience, so that if the person who's being affected by this needs to talk, needs to express, they will have that safety net. It's important to be available as consistently as possible if that's a perfect person. Another aspect here is to understand that what they're going through is normal, given that they've just experienced a pretty abnormal event, and to normalize it. And not saying, as is another column, to minimize it, to say, hey, it's really real, get over it, this happens all the time, but to say, hey, it's understandable what you're going through, given what happened. Accepting the initial coping, so as Dr. Lewis said, in the first while after a traumatic event like this, almost anything goes, right? People respond in all kinds of different ways. And sometimes it's helpful for those around to say, okay, this may look really strange right now, or maybe really concerning me, but this is just how they're reacting to this event at present. If that goes on for longer than is healthy, then you might want to address it. But for the first little while, just allow them to cope as they will. Encouraging the use of natural supports over therapy. So in the first little while, sometimes there's a real sense of like, oh wow, they're really suffering, and they need some kind of therapy, etc., etc. That may be the case, but as Dr. Lewin said, most people will have a lot of symptoms like this after an event like this, but that will go down gradually as the weeks go by, or resume normalcy. For some people, if those symptoms and that distress is ongoing, it may be appropriate to just have some therapy. Something else here we're going to talk about is to limit the exposure to repetitive media accounts. Right? So again, balance is key. There's a certain amount of information that people want to have, and to some extent, knowing a lot about the event helps you process it. But as we all know, after things like 9/11, the media has a tendency to sensationalize and dramatize and repeat. And to be exposed to that constantly is not usually helpful for people. So there's a balance of how much processing you want to do, because you can exhaust yourself if you're doing too much of that. And conversely, if you're trying to ignore it altogether, it's probably not helpful either. In terms of the don'ts, minimizing the impact of something like this. Sometimes people are well-meaning and will say things that they think will help the other person, like this was meant to be, or there must be a higher purpose to this. But that's, if the person isn't ready, and if that's not where they're coming from, it's not going to be helpful to them. Don't take control over their well-being. People generally know what they need, and it's useful to give them, ask them if they want assistance, if you can offer some help, but let them let them have control over their coping. Try not to give advice, and certainly try not to judge. And that's something that's shut down communication. It's really important to create a sense of safety in relationships so that people can open up to each other if they need to. Related to that, it's important not to pathologize a normal reaction. And so, in no way implying that this is not incredibly painful and incredibly disruptive and upsetting. But I guess what we're saying is that given what happened, that makes a lot of sense that people are feeling this way. It's not necessarily pathological. Life is beautiful, but there are also very, very painful things that happen, and we deal with it. And that's it's a whole process. There's a tendency sometimes to say, well, if you're hurting, there must be something wrong with you. And that's not the case. If you're hurting right now, it's because something bad happened and those feelings make sense. And lastly, don't personalize reactions. Keep in mind if someone's having a hard time because they're trying to get in, it's that event that's affecting them. They may withdraw, they may start to act in ways that you're not used to, but that's not necessarily about you. So just keeping that in mind. So that being said, in terms of normalizing stuff, that being said, there are a few exceptions to that. If people are engaging in risky coping behaviors, like if they're drinking a lot, starting to take a lot of drugs, or they're starting to do things that are otherwise risky, that's an exception to the rule where you may want to seek more help. If they're feeling suicidal or homicidal, and if they just can't care for themselves or their pets, they just can't function. I think sometimes after something, depending on how close you are to it, depending on how hard it hits you, it might really disrupt your life for a time, and maybe that's more appropriate. Talking about more of a long-term thing.
We said we'd return to this. We've been emphasizing all evening so far that most everything that we see in the first couple of days is probably pretty normal, with those exceptions that Dr. Oliver just mentioned. But it's also normal and natural to ask, when should we be concerned? When is more help needed? And just like we talked about, what are some of the factors that seem to allow people to recover naturally? The flip side of that question would be, what are some of the things that make people vulnerable to getting stuck over time? So we're going to talk a little bit about PTSD, which, as we said earlier, is one of the more common long-term reactions that people have when they do get stuck in some of those normal early reactions. And we know a little bit, but I'll emphasize a little bit, about what puts people at risk for this kind of long-term stuckness. Some of these factors are things that happen before a traumatic event ever occurs, and some of them are things that are characteristics of the event itself. Neither of those two things are particularly useful to us when we're trying to understand and explain and help people recover from these reactions, because we can't change them. And also because a lot of the pre-trauma factors are also things that are very general risk factors. They also predispose people to a lot of other things that can happen with other difficulties. But what is a little bit more useful and interesting are some of the things that happen after trauma that seem to put people at risk or make them vulnerable to getting stuck. So the most reliable three things that we know so far are lack of social support after a traumatic event, the presence of a lot of significant life stresses, and really severe early symptoms. And we think that these things predispose people to developing ongoing difficulties because of the way that they disrupt the natural recovery process. So if someone feels very alone after something like this happens, and they may not have the support and comfort that they need to talk about those feelings, express their emotions, and begin to heal. And similarly, if there's a lot of things going on in somebody's life, there's a lot of stresses that they have to deal with. We as humans have only a limited amount of resources. And if our cup is full and something happens that makes it even fuller, we have a hard time sometimes focusing on recovery if we're trying to deal with a whole bunch of other stuff that's happening. And then people who have really significant or more profound symptoms early on, some of those warning signs or really intense early symptoms, also seem to be those who tend to go on to develop more difficulties in the long term. So what this really points to is, as we were saying before, some of the things that can facilitate recovery and the importance of putting people in touch with their natural support systems or other forms of support, maybe providing some temporary relief from some of the day-to-day responsibilities and activities that they may be engaged in or have to do, and providing this basic comfort and support. And that seems to be able to set the stage for people to get on a different trajectory. There is, of course, a lot we don't know about what puts people at risk. So this is not a perfect way to predict who will recover and who will not eventually. But these are some of the things that we look for when we're trying to determine, does somebody need more support in the form of professional help, for example. So some of the indications that some of those natural community supports might not be sufficient. So we like this quote from Greer and Scott, that PTSD occurs when we start to organize our lives around the trauma. And what this really means is if anxiety or fear or guilt or sadness starts to make our decisions for us, rather than us making decisions based on what's meaningful to us or what was important to us before. So when our life starts to kind of work around these events, that's a good indication that we might be stuck. Some of the other things that we look for is just simply how long is the person experiencing these reactions. So if it's a few days or a few weeks, that's perfectly normal. If it starts getting into more than a month, and it's not something that's transient, that comes and goes and happens from time to time, but it's something that that person is experiencing most days and most all of the day, and that's an indication that they might need some help. We also look at intensity of the symptoms, so how profound is the distress that somebody is experiencing? How profound is that anxiety or sadness or grief? Does it look much different than somebody else who's going through the same thing, people that have gone through similar things before? And then a really good indication, something that's easy to spot, is how much has this begun to interfere with the way that we live our lives. So if we start to notice that this is changing the way that we relate to important people in our lives, changing the way that we have relationships, if it's affecting our ability to do things at work or at home that we used to be okay with, if we're not taking care of ourselves, that can be sleeping too much or too little, or not eating properly, having difficulty getting our kids to school, for example, then we see that over time this is something that's begun to change our patterns in the way that we live our lives, and that's something that we don't want people to get stuck in for longer than they need to. So if this is the case, there are lots of available resources. So there are people out there to support and help with that kind of thing, whereas we've been emphasizing all evening that natural supports are the best supports, reaching out to family, friends, co-workers, community groups, if that's something that's relevant to you, clergy. But if not, a family physician is a really good first line resource. Family physician can provide referrals to services like ours or community service providers, coverage through, which is important for coverage through insurance. There are employee assistance programs if your employer offers such. And if you're interested in getting in touch with a registered mental health professional, like a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a social worker, you can check the college websites, College of Psychologists, etc. They have listings by area. Our clinic, in conjunction with the Royal, has also just launched an app, OSI Connect. It has some self-screeners on there, some information for professionals and for individuals, and some links to some other resources that are available online. And as we said before, I just want to come back to what Dr. Oliver was talking about. In those cases where you feel like you or someone that you love might need more immediate assistance and it's not time to wait to see a mental health provider, then there are crisis resources available. Of course, 911 or your local emergency department. And then these are various crisis lines and mental health mobile crisis teams that can take calls or come out to do an assessment. So with that, we'll wrap up. And thank you very much for coming and for listening to us this evening. And we'd be pleased to take any questions that